As World War II entered its final and most desperate phase, the Third Reich faced the unthinkable, an army collapsing under the weight of its own losses. Millions were dead, morale was shattered, and Hitler's once invincible war machine had turned into a graveyard of men and steel. Yet in the midst of ruin, a new idea was born. One so radical, so grotesque, that even Nazi officers whispered about it in fear. It was called Operation Lazarus. According to recently uncovered SS medical archives, Operation Lazarus began as part of a series of experiments under the Ahnenerbe S Department of Biological Renewal, its mission to push the limits of human life and death. Inspired by biblical legends and the myth of Lazarus, the man raised from the dead, Hitler scientists believed they could restore life using a combination of medical technology, electricity, and experimental serums. Their ultimate goal was simple. If soldiers could not be replaced fast enough, they would be resurrected. The first stage of the project took place in 1943 at a secret facility near Dachau, disguised as a medical training center. The lead researcher, Dr. Victor Brandt, was a neurologist who had previously worked on hypothermia revival studies for the Luftwaffe. His early tests involved using electric shocks to restart the hearts of soldiers who had suffered cardiac arrest in battle. At first, the results seemed promising. Brandt recorded several cases where soldiers declared clinically dead for up to 4 minutes were revived. But the side effects were catastrophic: brain damage, violent outbursts, and psychological collapse. Still, Hitler saw potential. Brandt was ordered to continue. By 1944, the experiments expanded into territory no one dared to imagine. Brandt's team began working with cadavers, bodies retrieved from battlefields and hospitals. They injected synthetic plasma infused with iron particles to simulate blood circulation and attached electrodes to the skull and spine. Witnesses reported seeing limbs twitch, eyes flicker, and even brief gasps of breath. But what returned was not life. It was chaos. The revived subjects screamed, convulsed, and died again within minutes. The SS referred to them as the Restless Ones. In one chilling report dated December 1944, Brandt wrote, "The mind does not return, only the vessel." He believed consciousness could not be restored by physical means alone. Yet his superiors insisted he find a solution. That's when Operation Lazarus entered its second phase, the soul transfer protocol. Drawing from occult texts seized from Tibet and Egypt, the SS began experimenting with brainwave synchronization, attempting to record and replay the electrical patterns of a living soldier. S-mind into the brain of a dead one. It was pseudo-science mixed with madness, but within the twisted ideology of the Third Reich, it made sense. They wanted to build an immortal army, bodies that obeyed without conscience or fear. As the Allies advanced into Germany, the Lazarus facility was moved underground to a new complex in the Harz Mountains near Nordhausen. Survivors of the area later described hearing strange electrical noises at night, humming, crackling, followed by screams. One local farmer recalled seeing a column of smoke rise from the forest and the smell of burning chemicals in the air. Then, without warning, the entire site was sealed. No one ever saw the researchers again. When American forces liberated Nordhausen in April 1945, they discovered a network of tunnels filled with laboratory equipment and hundreds of medical records. One file contained sketches of human figures with surgical scars across the head. The official post-war report classified Operation Lazarus as mythological propaganda. But decades later, fragments of the research resurfaced in Soviet and US archives. The Soviets, fascinated by the possibility of reanimation, launched their own program called Project Rebirth in the 1950s. Meanwhile, declassified CIA documents from Operation Paperclip revealed that several Nazi doctors involved in advanced medical research were secretly brought to America. Their work contributed to early studies in cryogenics, neural stimulation, and organ preservation, eerily similar to Brandt's experiments. The legend of Operation Lazarus only grew darker with time. In the 1960s, a journalist investigating the Harz tunnels reported hearing mechanical sounds deep underground. When his team tried to return a week later, the site had been flooded by authorities. Locals claimed the government was covering up something unnatural. Others believed that parts of the project continued in secret under new regimes, rebranded under different names. What makes Operation Lazarus so terrifying is how plausible it sounds. The Nazis were obsessed with conquering death, whether through cryogenics, cloning, or the manipulation of human life. They blurred the line between science and the supernatural, pursuing immortality with the same fanaticism they waged war. And while no one can prove the success of their resurrection experiments, the evidence of their attempts is undeniable. If the experiments of Operation Lazarus ever succeeded, even for a moment, it would mean that humanity crossed a line it was never meant to approach. Perhaps that's why the records were buried, the witnesses silenced, and the tunnels sealed forever. The dead should never return. But as long as history keeps its secrets, the legend of Operation Lazarus will remain. A story of science gone mad, of men who tried to play God, and of an army that refused to die. This is the story of Operation Lazarus, Hitler's plan to resurrect the dead.